Hi, everyone. Thanks, Brianne. My name is Kristen. I am one of the supervisors here in the billing office at the university. And my goal here today is really just to make sure you all walk away from this presentation with a better understanding of the billing process. So we will go over when and how you view a bill, when and how you can pay the bill. We'll take a look at a bill together to show you what it actually looks like on MyUI. And I will try to throw in a few other helpful tips along the way. And then when I'm done with my portion of the presentation, I will turn it over to my friend Lacey from the financial aid office. She'll go over some financial aid information, and then we'll do a live Q&A at the end. So feel free, as Brianne said, to find that Q&A button, and you can certainly submit your questions throughout the presentation. So U-bills are available on MyUI. So we do all of our billing electronically, and we make them available on the first of each month. So this does mean that we do not mail paper statements to students or to parents. All of our billing is done electronically. We do have several how-to guides available on the billing office website to assist with the online U-bill. So we have tutorials for how to read the U-bill, how to invite a guest account user, how to add a bank account, and how to make an online payment once you have that bank account established. I do want to talk just a little bit more about the guest account because that is a really important feature that you should be aware of. We are heavily regulated by FERPA, which are Federal Student Privacy Regulations. And what FERPA tells us is that we cannot disclose the details of a student's bill to anyone other than the student unless that person already has access to that information. And the way that you get that access is through the guest account. So if you're a student watching now and you have a parent or another support person who's going to be helping you with your information here at the university, including the bill, you're going to want to invite that person to have a guest account. It's a really easy process, and they will get an email to complete that guest account creation process, and then that way they'll have access to the information that they need in order to view your bill, pay your bill, but also to contact us with questions. The first U-bill of the fall semester will come out on August 1st. The bill for the spring semester comes out on January 1st. This is when you're actually going to see the tuition, housing, and meal plan charges billed for each of those semesters. We do send an email notification on the first of each month to students' University of Iowa email. Just please note that this email that we send does not contain a copy of the bill. It's simply a reminder to log into MyUI to review the bill. The guest account that I was just speaking about can also be used to view the U-bill, and with the appropriate access set up, any guest account users can also receive billing notifications. So those monthly billing reminders can go to any guest user for students as well. You can also, if you'd like to, like the University of Iowa Billing Office Facebook page. I do always promise not to spam your news feed with really fun billing information every month. However, we will occasionally post notices that we find would be beneficial to a larger audience. At a minimum each month, though, we do post a reminder that the bill is online, ready to be viewed at the beginning of the month. And then a couple of days before the due date, we will post a reminder that the bill is due, so if you haven't set up your payment yet, to please do that. Speaking of the due date, it's typically the 22nd of each month. Occasionally, we will push that due date back. For example, if the 22nd falls on a weekend. For August, you can note that the due date is actually the 27th. School starts on the 24th, and we didn't want to have a due date prior to the actual start of classes, so your due date is the Thursday that week. I also like to point out that we do have a billing and payment student agreement that all students are required to sign online on MyUI prior to the start of each semester. This agreement basically outlines the terms of a student's financial responsibility when enrolling for classes at Iowa. So this is an online process. Your student will log right into MyUI and sign that. So there's no paper statement that needs to be sent into the billing office unless your student happens to be under 18, and you should have received a letter about that. Here's an example of tuition and housing and meal plan estimates for the upcoming school year. So these are per semester estimates for an Iowa resident and a non-resident. Please keep in mind, I want to stress that these are estimates because these figures are definitely going to vary based on your student's program of study, as well as their housing and meal plan selections. But this should give you a good idea of per semester costs to plan for. We do offer an installment payment plan to pay the tuition, housing, and meal plan over the first 3 months of each semester. We call this the deferred payment plan. So for the fall semester, you're able to split those 3 types of charges, tuition, housing, and meal plan, up over August, September, and October. In the spring, it's January, February, and March. There is no formal enrollment process for taking advantage of the deferred plan. If you pay anything less than the total balance due on the first U-bill of each semester, you'll automatically be enrolled in the plan, and there's a $20 one-time fee per semester for taking advantage of paying in those installments. It is important, though, to recognize that the deferred plan is just for tuition, housing, and meal plan charges. All other charges that are billed to a student's U-bill are due in the month in which they're billed. So that could be purchases made with student's ID card, for example, books at the university bookstore, food purchases across campus, athletic tickets or performing arts tickets. Any of those sorts of miscellaneous charges are due in the month in which they're billed. A couple of other miscellaneous charges I just want to point a little bit more about are parking tickets and student health insurance. So if your student is bringing a vehicle to campus and that vehicle is registered to someone other than themselves, I would highly recommend that you register that vehicle on campus with the parking office, because if they were to get a ticket, then that ticket would be sent to the registered owner of the vehicle. Because the parking office really doesn't know who's driving the car, right? So if you find yourself in that situation, your student can contact the parking office and register that vehicle on campus. And there are 2 primary reasons for doing this. The first one is that any tickets a student receives goes on their own U-bill, and a separate one won't be sent to the registered owner. And then the parking office also offers a slightly reduced rate ticket for students who have their vehicles registered on campus. All students are required to be covered under a student health insurance plan. So if your student is covered under your plan or an alternate plan, this is not something you'll need to worry about. However, if your student does not have alternate insurance, you will start to see the monthly student health insurance premium on the U-bill. This is what the U-bill actually looks like out on my UI. I had mentioned previously that we do not mail paper statements. However, if you would like to print one, you can certainly do that by clicking the Print Your U-bill button here. That will generate a PDF version of the current month's billing statement, including a payment stub. So if you choose to mail in your payment, you can do it that way. This I've just circled in the upper right-hand corner are quick links. I had mentioned that we have some of those tutorials to help with the online U-bill, how to read the bill, how to make payment, that sort of thing. So you can link right to those resources from here. At the bottom of the page, you'll see those 3 blue bars and that little arrow next to them. That arrow indicates that this section is expandable. So each of those sections expands to show you more detail about the U-bill. I'm actually circled on U-bill detail here, and if we were to click on that, this is what you would see: a detailed listing of all the charges and payments or credits that make up the current month's billing statement. Up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a statement date drop-down box. So that will allow you to navigate to prior month's billing statements once you get a bit further along in your academic career. I've circled here just a tuition and fee example showing up in the charges column on the August U-bill, and a few examples of financial aid applying to the bill, reducing the out-of-pocket amount owed for the month of August. So if you're a financial aid recipient, and when I say financial aid, I mean scholarships, loans, or grants, any of those pieces of aid that you have taken out or qualified for will appear on the August U-bill, provided that you have all of your to-do lists taken care of with the financial aid office. So your bill would look very similar to this: tuition, housing, meal plan in the charges column, and then pieces of aid applying to that, reducing the amount you owe for August. Okay, we're moving on to how can you pay the bill. You can pay online through MyUI using a checking or savings account. We need your account number and routing number, and you can pay that through the student account or through a guest account. You can also pay in person. We are located in the University Capitol Center, used to be known as the Old Capitol Mall, right above CVS. You can also mail payments to our payment processing center. We do ask that you use that payment stub that you can obtain when you print the bill, just to make sure that your payment is posted to the correct account. We also do accept credit card payments. However, we do want to point out that there is a 2.75% non-refundable service fee charged by the credit card vendor that we partner with. So that's just something to keep in mind if you choose that payment option. And then we also receive quite a few questions about 529 plans, or those college savings plans, and how those work. And my best advice is to speak with your 529 plan administrator to find out what information they need from you in order to submit payment to the university. Oftentimes, they simply just need to know your student's ID number, the amount you want to send, and the address to send the check to. But you'll want to have that information lined up so that when the August U-bill comes out, you can automatically know what you need to get to them, and then make sure that you do that early so that payment can be received by the due date. Just a couple notes here about late or returned payments. So when a student's U-bill is $100 or more and payment is not received by the due date, three things are actually going to happen. The student's ability to charge on campus with their ID card will become restricted. The student's ability to register for a future session will also be restricted, and a $25 late payment fee per month will be assessed until the past due balance is resolved. In the event that we do receive payment, but then that payment is returned by the bank, there is a $30 fee in those instances. The billing office is also responsible for the disbursement of financial aid. So I want to take just a second here to outline kind of the difference between the financial aid office and the billing office, because I think it can be quite confusing for people. So you can think of the financial aid office as your step one. You're going to fill out your Fafsa, and the financial aid office is responsible for determining a student's financial aid eligibility and awarding financial aid packages. So you're going to do all that paperwork with them and sign your prom note, do your entrance counseling, and all the items on your financial aid to-do list. Once that is complete, financial aid actually releases the funds over to the billing office. And it's our responsibility in the billing office then to utilize that aid to either pay eligible charges on the U-bill or refund any excess after all eligible charges have been covered. So that's kind of how the offices are a little bit different. Financial aid really is responsible for awarding, and then the billing office disperses. Financial aid will be posted to the first U-bill, provided that you have your to-do list complete. I do want to make a quick note here about private donor scholarship checks. So if you are a recipient of one of these, like for example, from your high school or place of business, you will want to send those checks to the billing office at this address. And then there is the scholarship check submission form available on the billing office website that we request you to download and send in with those checks. I also want to point out the MyUI Aid Disbursement Page. It's a great summary of financial aid by semester, and I'm actually going to show you what that looks like now. So this isn't a page out on MyUI that I definitely recommend you form a habit of reviewing each semester if you receive scholarships, loans, or grants. The top section is going to give you a summary of all the financial aid that has been released over to billing to be utilized either toward the U-bill or refunded. That middle section shows of that aid how much has been applied to the U-bill. And then the bottom section shows if there's anything remaining after all eligible charges have been covered, what has been refunded, and then what method, whether it was by direct deposit or check, for example. Aid refunds do begin the first week of classes each semester, and the quickest way to get your refund is by setting up a direct deposit account on MyUI, so authorizing us to actually direct deposit those funds into a bank account. For Parent Plus loans, we do send those excess funds to the borrower unless the parent or borrower specified to send those funds to the student. You can also set up direct deposit for the Plus loan either through your MyUI guest account or by setting or completing the direct deposit authorization form that is available on our website. Jumping ahead here to January, to tax time, the 1098-T form is the form needed to take advantage of any educational related tax deductions. So we do make this form available on MyUI no later than January 31st each year. So you'll just want to print that out and include it with all the other forms that you use to have your taxes prepared. I'm wrapping up the billing portion here now. I just want to take a second to acknowledge that we understand that a lot of information is provided during orientation, and we know it can be a lot to take in, particularly difficult given the current situation and the fact that we can't welcome you to orientation in person right now. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have questions. We are available to help. We're actually going to start helping you by providing you with a checklist of items to tackle over the course of the next month. Determine who's going to be responsible for submitting the payment to the U-bill. If you're going to have guests, users, or other people who need access beyond the student, please set those people up with guest accounts. That's the best way to ensure that they have the access needed to view and pay the bill, but also to contact our office to ask questions if they have any. Set up bank information on MyUI for any refunds, and that includes the Parent Plus direct deposit if that applies to you. Set a reminder on your calendar to review the U-bill after the first of each month. So billing is a monthly process. Bills are produced on the 1st, typically due on the 22nd. And then like University of Iowa billing on Facebook if you want to receive those additional monthly reminders from us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lacey.
Okay, thank you, Kristen. Hello, everyone. My name is Lacey Patterson. I am the Assistant Director of Service Operations and Outreach in the Office of Student Financial Aid. A few things we're going to talk about today are the financial aid process at Iowa. We will look at an example of an offer letter so you can get an idea of how much financial aid you may need. We're going to go over the different types of financial aid, and then we're also going to take a look at next year because that will be coming up before you know it. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the FAFSA is the application for federal financial aid. It is not required, but we do encourage you to file one. I'm sure a lot of you at this point already have filed a FAFSA, but it is important to know that if you haven't yet, there is still time to do so. The FAFSA is completed online at fafsa.gov. I will mention the University of Iowa does have a priority filing date for the FAFSA each year, which is December 1st, but some financial aid programs never run out, such as Stafford Loans or Pell Grant. So if you haven't filed yet, I would encourage you to do so. I've also included our office's website on this slide. We have a lot of great information out there as well that you can reference at any time. So once the FAFSA is submitted and received by the University of Iowa, students will be able to log into their MyUI account and check the status of their financial aid. Financial aid offers will be posted in MyUI, and we will send out an email once you are able to view those. For first-year students, this is the only year a paper copy of the award offer will be mailed. Subsequent years, offer letters will only be posted in MyUI. But again, we will send emails out once those are ready to be viewed. It's also important to view your financial aid to-do list in MyUI. This will let you know if there are any documents that still need to be submitted in order for us to process your financial aid on time. I also want to mention we will communicate with students through their UI email addresses. So it is extremely important to get in the habit of checking that regularly so you don't miss out on any deadlines or paperwork that could hold up your financial aid. These emails will not be sent to parents. However, as a parent, you will get an email letting you know your student has received an email, so you can always follow up with them if needed. Okay, so in the next couple slides, I'm going to break down what the financial aid offer letter looks like. So here you will see an example of a non-resident's estimated tuition and fees and their housing costs for living on campus. It's important to note, like Kristen said, that these costs are only estimated. So your particular student's costs may look different depending on their residency status and what program or college they're in. The Iowa Board of Regents sets tuition each year, so if there are ever any changes to the tuition rate, we will send out an email. You'll get your actual housing fees from housing, and that will also show up on your August 1st U-bill. The next portion of the offer letter will kind of break down what your student has been awarded in financial aid. So as you can see, this student is receiving a couple scholarships listed there at the top, and then has also been awarded federal Stafford loans, which you kind of see on the bottom half of the award offer. On this part of the offer letter, we kind of break down the math for you. So you'll see your total estimated billed expenses minus any grants and scholarships received, minus any student loans you may take, which will then give you an idea of the estimated amount that will still need to be covered. So you may be planning on paying for this remaining amount out of pocket, using a 529 savings plan, or you may need an additional loan. And we will go over a couple additional loan options a little later on. So it is also important to note that only charges that will show on the university bill are going to be the tuition and fees and room and board if living on campus. But there are other expenses related to attending school. So it is important to kind of plan for those costs as well, as budget accordingly. On the left-hand side here, you'll see estimated expenses for books, personal, and transportation. Now, these expenses will vary depending on the student. For instance, for books, a student may choose to purchase secondhand books as opposed to brand new. Travel expenses will also vary. If you're a student who needs to fly home, you're going to have a little more expenses versus a student who is just a short drive away from home. So just a few things to keep in mind there. And then on the right-hand side are some additional resources to consider to help cover your costs as well. We'll discuss work study and PLUS and private loans a little later on. And then there's also the deferred payment plan, which Kristen talked about a little earlier. Okay, so in this next section, we're going to break down the different types of financial aid and talk about them. These types of aid include scholarships, grants, work study, and loans. So the first type of aid we're going to talk about are going to be the scholarships and grants, and these are considered gift aid or free money, and this is money that does not need to be repaid. So Fafsa is the application for grants, and you are automatically considered for these if you are eligible. It's important to be aware that scholarships awarded through the university do have renewal criteria that will need to be met for scholarships to be renewed each year. You can view scholarship renewal requirements on MyUI. If you receive a scholarship from an academic department or any outside scholarships, for example, one from your hometown, it is important to check with them directly to determine if the scholarship is renewable, and if so, what the renew criteria is. Some scholarships and grants awarded through the university do require a Fafsa be on file by the priority filing date, which for UI is December 1st. So it is important to file your Fafsa early each year. If you're receiving scholarships from outside of the university, you will need to report those to us. You can do so in MyUI under the financial aid offer section. It's important you report these scholarships to us for a couple of reasons. One, so you will know if it will affect your current financial aid offer, and also because it will give you an updated picture of what your remaining balance is going to look like. And lastly, I want to touch on the University Scholarship Portal. Although awarding for scholarships has pretty much wrapped up for this upcoming academic year, I do encourage students to look at scholarships in the university portal each year. Some scholarships become available to students in their second, third, or fourth year, so it is important to kind of always be checking that portal. The portal opens in September each year for scholarships for the next academic year. So this September, the portal will open for scholarships for the 21-22 academic year. I typically use Thanksgiving break as a good indicator to start looking and applying for scholarships if you haven't done so already. Let's see. Jumped ahead there. Okay, so work study. Now, work study is a program that we receive a lot of questions about. There's a lot of confusion around it. Now, work study is a federal work program through the Fafsa. So to be considered for it, you must file a Fafsa. Work study is basically like having a part-time job. With work study, students are responsible for finding their own job. And for that, we use a website called Handshake. You can start looking for jobs now if you know this is something you're going to be interested in. There are jobs posted now. More will be posted throughout the summer. We do offer another webinar dedicated solely to financial literacy and student employment. So if you think this is something you would be interested in, I would check out that webinar as well. So work study is not required to work on campus. Last year, we had roughly 7,000 students working on campus, and only about 1,000 of them had work study. Some campus employers can only hire work study eligible students due to budgeting, because with work study, the government is paying half of the wage while the employer just has to pay the second half of the wage. So if you do have work study, it can make you a more desirable candidate in some departments. However, the majority of employers on campus will hire both work study and non-work study students. It's important to know that with work study, you are getting a paycheck every 2 weeks by direct deposit for the hours worked. So no money will ever go directly towards the U-bill. The offer letter will show you an amount of work study you are eligible for, which means you can work and earn up to that amount each semester. Now, that is something that can be a little confusing. So with work study, I usually tell students that this can be the money that they save to help them buy their books the next semester, or money to help them with those personal expenses that they have. So now I'm going to talk about Stafford Loans. Now, these are the loans listed on the financial aid offer, and the student is the sole borrower of these loans. There are two types, subsidized and unsubsidized loans. Subsidized loans are interest-free while the student is enrolled at least part-time, and it will not start accruing any interest until 6 months after the student graduates or drops below being at least a part-time student. Unsubsidized loans, on the other hand, do begin accruing interest right away. For the upcoming school year, the interest rates on both the subsidized and unsubsidized loans is fixed at 2.75%, which is down a little bit from last year. Repayment of loans will begin 6 months after graduating, or if you were to drop below half-time enrollment, it would start 6 months after that. Some students do choose to make payments while in school to keep up on the interest, but this is completely optional. If you plan on taking out a Stafford loan, there are a few steps you will need to complete. A master promissory note, which is your promise to pay the loan back once you're done with school. And entrance counseling, which entails reading through loan information about being a smart loan borrower. There's a little quiz that goes along with that. And then also the loan acceptance, which is you letting us know that you do want the loan and how much of the loan you do want. Master promissory note and entrance counseling are completed online at studentloans.gov and only need to be completed the first semester you borrow a Stafford loan. They'll carry through with you every semester after that. Loan acceptance will have to be completed each year after you're notified that your financial aid offer has been posted. Just a note, all this information is on your financial aid to-do list, so you don't need to remember all these things. Just remember to check your to-do list in my UI. For first-year students, $5,500 is the maximum amount of loans a student can be awarded through the Fafsa. You may see a combination of both subsidized and unsubsidized loans, or you may only have unsubsidized loan, but $5,500 is the maximum for first-year students. This amount will increase to $6,500 per year as a second-year student, and $7,500 per year as a third and fourth-year student. So what if the amount of loans and scholarships the student is awarded isn't enough to cover everything? So one way to bridge that gap between what the student is receiving and with what still needs to be covered is the Parent Plus loan. Now, this is a loan that the parent applies for under their name. To apply for the Parent Plus loan, the parent will go into studentloans.gov with their FSA ID and password, not their students, and complete a loan request for each semester they wish to take the loan. I recommend, if you know you will be borrowing a plus loan for both fall and spring semesters, to fill them both out at the same time and have it done with. A credit check is required as part of this loan application. That credit check is good for 180 days. The parent will also need to complete a master promissory note similar to the student. And again, this information for the parent is also on the financial aid to-do list as well, in kind of a separate portion out there for the parents. So you can always reference that. On the PLUS loan application, parents do have the option to defer payments on this loan while their student is in school. However, keep in mind, if you do choose this option, the interest will be accruing. The interest rate on the PLUS loan this upcoming year is fixed at 5.3%, which is also down from this previous year. When deciding how much to apply for, you'll also want to consider that the Department of Education does have a 4% origination fee that they take off the top of the loan each semester. So just be aware of that when you are kind of planning on how much you do need to take. A private loan would be another option to help cover costs. This can be taken out by the parent of a student or by the student with a parent or another qualifying cosigner. A private loan counseling session with one of our financial aid advisors is required each semester you take out a private loan. These can be done over the phone since the office isn't currently open. You can schedule those appointments online. In this session, the advisor will discuss interest rates as well as repayment of the loan. We also have a list of our preferred lenders on my UI if a private loan is something you're considering. Now, these are lenders we have worked with in the past and have had success with. You can also always check with your personal financial institution for private loan options as well. Okay, so you might be thinking, when do I need to have this all in place and ready to go? And I like to use the 4th of July as a way to remember. So with the 4th of July coming up, you may need to start taking some action on some of these, but there's still time. If you keep this date in mind yearly to have your financial aid in place, then you know it will always be ready to go for that August 1st U-bill. So, surprisingly, not long after the school year starts, you'll actually want to start thinking about the FAFSA for the next academic year. The FAFSA for 21-22 will open on October 1st. And again, I encourage all of you to file the FAFSA as soon as you can after that date. It will be based off of 2019 financial information. And I know with everything that is going on right now, COVID related, some of you might have financial information that's no longer relevant. Maybe there's been a lost job or something to that effect. Once you file the FAFSA, you will want to contact our office to let us know so we can see if there's any adjustments that we can make. If you are able, we recommend using the IRS data retrieval tool when completing the FAFSA, as this pulls in your tax information directly from the IRS. This will make it easier if your FAFSA is selected for verification, and it will also give you the most accurate estimated financial aid award. I also want to let you know about our financial literary services that our office offers. This service allows students to make an appointment with a financial aid advisor and discuss things like repayment of loans, um, budgeting, financial aid planning. This is also a great resource for students to take advantage of. And like I said earlier, if you are interested in this topic or learning more, there is a webinar that you can attend based on this topic. Lastly, I know I just went over a lot of information, like Kristen said, in kind of a short amount of time. You're getting a lot of information during your students' orientation, but I do want to let you know we are here to help. We're available by phone and by email Monday through Friday, so please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And with that, I'm going to put up our contact information for both billing and financial aid so that you can jot that down if you want to reach out. And now we'll kind of open it up to any questions that you may have as well if you haven't gotten those answered yet.
Hi there. Kristen, are you back and ready for a question if I ask you one?
Yes.
Okay, so the first one we got is just, could you give us a little more information about how to work a guest account? So how does one get set up? And then where does a parent use it once they have one set up?
Yeah, so in order to have a guest account, your student's going to need to log into MyUI and invite you to have one. So they will provide an email address and also assign access rights. And then you as the guest will receive an email to complete the process. So what will happen after that, once you've completed that, is that you will have your own Hawk ID and you'll set up a password during that account setup process. So you will be logging into MyUI with a Hawk ID as a guest, but that will link you to your student's account. And that also provides you an opportunity to keep your bank information completely separate. So you're linked to the student, but separate. And students can have multiple guest users.
Thank you. So the next one I think would be for Lacey. Could you kind of just give another little overview of why should a family do a FAFSA and what types of aid do you have to file a FAFSA to be eligible for, and what ones don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So a FAFSA would be required if your family is interested in taking out Stafford loans, if you're wanting to see if you're eligible for the Pell Grant, which is financial need based, as well as some scholarships awarded through our office. You would need to file a FAFSA. Also, if you're interested in work study, a FAFSA would be required. One thing that would not require a FAFSA would be if you receive merit-based scholarships. A FAFSA is not required if you're only receiving merit scholarships.
Thank you. So I saw a couple questions that are kind of related. So I'm wondering if you could kind of just give an overview, Kristen, of since students are going to be on campus and have their ID card, what does that mean each month? Can they buy things on their ID card? What are Hawk dollars for? And then if they do buy something, what happens the month after?
Sure. So your student will receive their Iowa One card, their university ID card that does allow charging privileges at various places across campus. So the bookstore, for example, or food purchases that would be outside of the meal plan, that sort of thing. Hawk dollars are a little bit different in that part of your housing contract initially, there is $100 allocated to Hawk dollars, which is, you can kind of think of as a declining balance debit card, where your student has $100 to utilize for vending or laundry or printing, that sort of thing. Once those Hawk dollars are exhausted, you can either add more to them, and you can do that through the housing office website, or there are kind of like Hawk dollar ATMs on campus that you can add funds through. Or instead of adding more Hawk dollars to the account, your student can simply then use their ID card to charge things like laundry or printing, that sort of thing.
And then if they charge something on their card, when is it due?
Oh, sorry. Yep, missed that part. Yes, so then those charges, anything they charge on their card would be billed on the U-bill in the next month and then due that same month that it's billed.
Thank you. For Lacey, could you review one more time? Are there separate PLUS loan applications during the year? Does the student have to do multiple applications for their loans?
Yeah, so the FAFSA is the sole application for the student's portion of the loan. So they just fill out the FAFSA once each year, and that will cover them for the full academic year. Contrary parents, if parents do want to take the PLUS loan, there is a separate application for each semester that they wish to take the PLUS loan. So they would have to fill out an application for fall and then also another application for spring if they wish to take the loan. I always recommend, if you know you're going to take it both semesters, to just fill them out right away, and then you know you're going to be set for both fall and spring.
Gotcha. And then I think this one's pretty quick, Lacey. Is there any difference through Handshake for a work study job or a not work study job, or can students just apply for anything they see out there?
Yeah, so Handshake would be for all student jobs on campus. So both work study and non-work study students can use that website to look for jobs. Some may say out there, work study only, but if they don't, then I would encourage you to apply, even if you don't have work study.
Cool, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you still have questions, I think we're about caught up. I'm going to ask one more to Kristen, so we'll give you some more time if you need to submit some more. The last one that I have right now, Kristen, is this: can you give us a little overview of private scholarships again? Will parents be able to see it on the bill? When does it get applied? When does it show up?
Sure. So private scholarship checks, if you have those in your possession now, go ahead and send them to the billing office at the address that's on the screen now. We also ask that you send it in with the scholarship check submission form, which you can download right from the billing office website. Once we receive those scholarships, you will be able to see them both on your financial aid offer letter as well as on the Aid Disbursement Page on MyUI. And they will apply to the bill as long as we have them before August 1st and have enough time to get them processed. Those scholarships will be applied to the August 1st U-bill.
Thank you. Lacey, would a student be able to see if they qualify for work study, and where can they see that?
Yeah, so if you are eligible for work study, it would be posted on your financial aid offer. There is a question on Fafsa that asks if you are interested in work study. If you indicate yes and you are eligible, it gets awarded to you. So if you think you are eligible, but maybe you weren't offered any work study on your financial aid offer, you can always give our office a call or shoot us an email, and we can determine if you are eligible. And if so, we can get that awarded to you.
I think that's about all that we have right now.
We'll stick around here for just a couple more minutes. If you do have another question or two, go ahead and submit those.